back with us. She will be reporting later in the show on a new flu virus that is appearing that is beyond H1N1. But first, we're going to be talking to a scientist who will remain anonymous about his own close encounter experiences. He's not the only person I know in his situation, but he is the only one who has been willing to talk to us publicly at all. His voice is being changed for this program. I'm going to call him Mike. He is a prominent scientist engaged in complex calculations. That is all I can say about him. However, I am aware of his actual career and work, and he is, I think it's safe to say, a scientist of great renown in his field. Welcome to the program, Mike.
Thanks.
Well, good. Now, without getting too much into your work, because the culture of science has failed in a very important way. It has failed to address the reality of the close encounter experience. And therefore, people like you are in a position of having to remain hidden. And how do you feel about that?
Well, it doesn't feel comfortable that the scientific establishment today has gotten itself closed to healthy inquiry about phenomenon which we don't understand and which obviously many people have experienced. This topic of your program is usually viewed as fringe, and most scientists scoff at it when I think that is very closed-minded. I think as being a scientist, it's your obligation to try to uncover things which you don't understand and get to the bottom of them. And many scientists don't want to go there with this topic because they feel it could make them look embarrassing or it could affect their grant money or their status. And I sort of view it as somewhat analogous, although not as anywhere near as extreme, but somewhat analogous to the situation in the Middle Ages with people like Giordano Bruno or Galileo, who, of course, everyone knows their story, about saying something which went against the Catholic Church. So the scientific community today is obviously not that tight, but nevertheless, there is definitely a frowning going on if someone talks about things which, quote unquote, don't fit the scientific method.
Right, but the scientific method, unfortunately, is a very limited thing. There are 6 axioms that are the basis of all science. Is that correct? 6 or 7?
Something like that. Yes, you basically, to be accurate about it, the modern fields of science, and I'll say hard science like physics and chemistry, astrophysics, other fields I could think of, but those are certainly the hard sciences, has as their founder mathematics.
Right.
Mathematics is behind all of these, and the way mathematics is set up using what we call the real number system has associated with these numbers a set of axioms that they have to satisfy. Everyone knows the law, the commutative law of multiplication, A times B equals B times A.
Right.
One for addition, and there's several other laws like this, which are very simple, like the unity law, A times 1 is equal to A, so that's the existence of a unity element. So there's only about, I can't remember the exact number, like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of these. That's it. That is it. Very finite number of simple laws like that. I just mentioned a couple. Distributive, associative, commutative, unity,
right.
And identity element. I think that's it. And those are self-consistent entities in that if you do arithmetic in those laws, all the results stay within those laws, and everything is very self-consistent. And it's that system which all of physics is based on, all of chemistry is based on. So therefore, when you do scientific work and you're making up theories of how things might move or how things might work under various situations in physics. Ultimately, you're going to have to satisfy those axioms.
Right.
This is only a handful of them. It's an extremely restrictive setup. Now, fortunately, it works very, very well and has gained us a tremendous amount of understanding of our universe. But obviously, if you have a finite number of axioms, you can only hope to understand a finite number of things.
And things that fall that you can't understand in terms of those rules are dismissed generally. Let me ask
well, that's pretty much accurate. Yes, if something, it depends on how it's dismissed. Typically, the rule of thumb that science follows is if you don't satisfy rules like that, the next thing they look for is can you reproduce something at will, and then if you can reproduce it and measure it, then that gives a sense of satisfying the scientific method. But however, not everything is reproducible. One field which is reproducible but doesn't necessarily satisfy those axioms is quantum mechanics, and the reason quantum mechanics is a valid field is because it is reproducible, and you have to use other axioms to describe it. But for the most part, most other things do satisfy a finite set of axioms.
So this is where we are. Now let me ask you this. We're about to discuss some truly extraordinary experiences that you've had. And what would happen to your career, which is a legendary career, actually, folks, to be honest, if this information became publicly known?
Probably, it depends, it depends how this kind of thing is described. If it's described in a way which is done in an analytic fashion without flourishes and just based on pure 100% observation, it would probably be accepted by a certain percentage, and the other percentage would think that I made it up or had some kind of mental disorder of some type. If it was not described with some in a very analytic way and sort of described in a little more detail about some implications of it, I think most people would say, well, you have no leg to stand on to talk that way, and think that it was probably just not true. And it would have the effect of damaging my career in terms of my credibility.
Yeah, but your career is such a big career that it would survive as a career, and that's not true of many scientists. Scientists without such a large career might be utterly destroyed.
Well, that's true. I mean, for example, when Carl Sagan was alive, with his career, if he had, I don't even know if he had experiences with these things. I have no idea, actually, and that's honest. But if he did, and he did talk about them, I think with his career, what it would have been dismissed that, that's just Carl, and he just had that to say, and it would be rapidly dismissed, and it wouldn't affect his career at all. But if you're a starting scientist or someone who's trying to build a career, and you haven't really done anything of particular note to your colleagues, and you came out with something like this, it would absolutely destroy your career, yes.
Right, absolutely. In fact, the only scientists I've ever been able to talk to openly about this have been people way, way up at the top of the scientific food chain who will discuss it more or less openly and give their opinions in a straightforward manner. However, the farther down you go, the more circumspect people become. In the latest issue of the New Scientist, and folks, this is the week of, it's October the 12th, 2009, who, for those of you who may be listening to this years from now, in the latest issue of the New Scientist, there is a long article about consciousness, where it quite casually assumes that things like alien abduction phenomena are merely side effects of sleep states. And of course, in my particular case, I